Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
Chevron 1, encoded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the tongues of war.
Chevron 2 encoded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of the women.
It's all in the reflexes.
Paul also said you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Now, come on, you can, monkey boy.
Great Scott!
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass!
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Hail and howdy, everybody. Welcome back to another Saturday Night Drive-In. This week, it is the results of Chat Choice Quarter Selection, whatever the hell I call it on any given day, because it's a kind of a mouthful of a thing to get through. But it's your choice. You voted, and here we are tonight. It's the Golden Voyage of Sinbad. Jed, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Just really struggling with the way that you worded that there.
Yeah,
I would say you're a bit of an expert on a mouthful. So,
well, I have no counter for that, so I'm gonna let it go. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good. Excited to be here to talk about this movie because I have very little experience when it comes to classic fantasy mythology films of the 70s and 80s, besides Clash of the Titans, which, as you may remember, I absolutely loved watching that for the first time on this show. So I was looking forward to this film to see some more, what is it, Ray
Harryhausen.
Ray Harryhausen products. And Ray Harryhausen did not let me down.
No, that's the thing.
I'll say that.
Well, here's the funny thing is, since your first exposure to Ray Harryhausen was when we did Clash of the Titans, that's his crown jewel. That's his final thing. That is the most impressive piece of art he ever did. And when we say Ray Harryhausen, it's not like he directed the movies. It's not like he did everything. He was just a genius when it came to special effects. And Frank says it right here. He was a pioneer. And our good friend Samuel Infamous actually told me, I didn't know this. He started way back in the 1930s King Kong. He was a part of that crew that made that happen.
Oh, so he's old by that point by Clash of the Titans.
Yeah. And Samuel told me a story on Monday that in a particular special effects museum, they've got the Triceratops from the original King Kong movie, and it's so eroded away right now you can see the internal workings of it and the minutia of how the internal gears and mechanisms worked are way beyond the time, which is, and Ray Harryhausen was a part of that. So the man is, without him, we don't have the special effects we have today without him. So when we watch a movie like this, Clash of Titans, the Golden Voyage of Sinbad, or any of the other Sinbad movies, or any of the other mythological movies that came out in the 60s and the 70s, it's the Ray Harryhausen work in it that truly makes these things memorable. Because what we're going to talk about today with the Golden Voyage of Sinbad, I believe this was 73. think it was 73.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think it was 73. This is my favorite of the Sinbad movies. There's like a handful of them, ending the last one being like a Lou Ferrigno one, which is just totally weird because we all know, didn't know then, we know now that any Lou Ferrigno movie, whether it's one of the Hercules movies he was in or anything like that, he's dubbed because the man is deaf and he can't
Is
speak.
he?
Oh, you didn't know that?
No, I just knew he was the original Hulk. That is all I know about him.
Oh, Lou Ferrigno, famous bodybuilder, but he's deaf. So when he speaks, he's got the deaf man tone when he speaks.
The deaf tone.
Or that kind of shit. All right.
I was hoping you would do it. That was the whole point of me asking. Oh, thank you.
Of course,
thank you.
Do it. I'm gonna live up to expectations. I have no restrictions. There's no filter here. This is YouTube. It's a show. No, so Lou Ferrigno, he did a Hercules movie, a couple Hercules movies, and he did a Sinbad movie. And of course, when he speaks, it's not him. It's dubbed. So it's just a thing you didn't know back then. When you're a kid watching it, you just think it's cool because his Hercules movie, his first one, is bonkers. It's completely bonkers. It's not based on any real mythology whatsoever. It's just insane. Like at one point at the end of it, he throws he attaches a stone to a chain to a chariot, and he throws the stone, and him and the girl at the end get on it, and the chariot just pulls them across the cosmos. It's just bonkers. He fights with like a rainbow sword of energy against the boss of that movie. That movie's bonkers. It's insane. And as a kid, you think it's awesome. When you're 7 years old watching it, you think it's the greatest thing in the effing world. And that wasn't a Ray Harryhausen movie. But I'm just saying, in these types of things, it's mostly about the spectacle rather than the actors, the performance. And coming back to this, well, this is my favorite of these Sinbad movies that are out there. There's not like the seven voyages inside. I forget all the names. There's like 3 or 4 of them, maybe 5. All different actors too. It's always a different Sinbad. This one's my favorite, mostly because of the particular Ray Harryhausen special effects, and something about the story actually does appeal to me overall. But I can admit, as we go through this, that this is not a strong movie. It's a fun movie, but it's not a strong movie, and it has that classic 70 lull to it at a certain point where you're like, "Can we move along, please? I'm enjoying this, but can we move along?" So let me set it up, and then we'll start getting into. So this is the Golden Voyage of Sinbad. It is taking place deep into Sinbad's legend because Sinbad, one of that era. This has to be like probably. I have no idea what historical time frame even supposed to be. I don't really know. I'm sure Legatas will toss it in there. He knows this shit better than I do.
I'd say probably 1700s.
Maybe. But clearly it's Sinbad, the famous adventurer, the same sailor, sails the 7 seas, finding adventure. One of the ultimate mythological Chads. That's one thing I would say about Sinbad is the dude is an effing Chad, gives no F's about anything he does. Doesn't have any regrets. Will be bold, will be brave, will be brash, and will always do the brave thing and always be the guy out front too. That's what I like about this particular portrayal of Sinbad. Sinbad in general never hides behind his men. Always the man up front. Will leap off the ship first. I'm gonna swim to shore, find adventure. You guys catch up later. I like the idea of personality of Sinbad so much so that there was a show about, I guess a decade ago now on Sci-Fi Channel. The Sci-Fi Channel aired it, called The Adventures of Sinbad or something like that. It was god awful because it was like the origin story of Sinbad. It was terrible. It was terrible. The dude that got to play Sinbad was this tiny little Pishka Miskite who like had no bearing or gravitas whatsoever. It's just like this little femme dude, like no muscles, nothing. It was terrible. And the story was god awful. I don't even think I think it got canceled after a season. Thank God. But Sinbad as a character is great. So I always like stuff. There's even the animated one where I think it was, with Brad Pitt, the voice, and I think Michelle Pfeiffer was the villain voice of that one. And that's actually a good movie. That's a good one.
Is it?
Good little animated movie. But Sinbad's a good character, so I enjoy Sinbad stuff. And this one to me really appeals to me because it's just a solid little adventure. You pick up who knows how deep into his lore. And I like the way it starts off where the little demon creature is flying around with the medallion. And Sinbad, without a second thought, I'm going to shoot it down. F it.
So I don't know if my version was different, but Sinbad was just admiring it, and one of his men shot it down, and he actually chastised the man for shooting it down, and his quartermaster was like, "You brought
it was crewmate.
You brought a curse upon us."
No, it's the crewmate that chastises him. The crewmate, his first mate is like, "No, don't do it. It's a bad idea." And Sinbad's like, "No, I'm gonna shoot it."
no, Sinbad, at least in the version I saw, did not shoot it.
All right, I'm gonna look. Hang on a second.
It was a bald man on the crew.
Are you sure? Maybe I've seen it so many times. I was doing something else while I was watching it. So
yeah, Sinbad was okay with it once it landed on the deck. The item landed on the deck. He picked it up. He's like, you know what? I'm going to keep it. That's all true. But yeah, it was a crewmate.
Was it the second mate? Let me check. I've seen this. I've been watching this thing since childhood.
Really?
So I've seen it a bunch of freaking times. So this was one of those ones where I didn't even bother
to pay attention.
Yeah, because I've seen it so many. Because I know the beats of the movie so well. Let me see.
Well, while you search for it,
I got it right here. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, he's holding it. Yeah, you're right. It's one of the. It's like it's a bosun, I think, that does it. Okay, you're right. I think I jumped right to the point where Sinbad's like, yeah, I like this thing. I'm gonna wear it. Makes me look like a man. I feel like good.
That's definitely true. He had no shits given.
So the adventure begins where they get the medallion, and then they suddenly find themselves off the shore of a tiny little sultanate, and he seeks it, and he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna jump ashore. You guys find berth. I'm going to swim ashore now and see where adventure takes me, basically, when he gets accosted by Tom Baker's villain. Now, we know you're a Whovian. You love it. How do you feel about Tom Baker's villain in this movie?
I think Tom Baker had a lot of fun with the role. You could definitely see his, craziness in there. He hammed it hardcore. One thing that I don't think we'll talk about when we get there, but when he's controlling the figurehead of Sinbad's ship, and it cuts back to him looking like he's getting head under the table, like he is full on having a sexual experience back in his cabin. It's weird, okay? I get it. He's controlling the figurehead. Establish it, and then don't cut back to him every few seconds. Oh! Arise! Come back! Oh! That's already bad enough, but just when the figurehead's fighting the crew, it's just like, oh. It's so weird. It is so weird.
Now,
I think.
No. I was going to ask a question. Go ahead, though. I was going to ask a clarifying question.
So yeah, I think Tom Baker delivered exactly what he was asked to for the role. I don't think his character was written very well, and that's one of my biggest problems with the movie is the script. The script is not great. I think his character had the most potential if they reworked a couple things, like the idea of a magical, a magician of some sort who his life force is the energy that he uses.
It's a good law. It's good rules for the magic. I think
it's very good.
That. Yeah.
And then the idea of essentially going to the Fountain of Youth, and once you have that eternal youth, he'd be the most powerful sorcerer ever. So there's a clear motivation to him that gets muddied up by the other sections, like a shield from darkness that's
invisibility.
Then a crown that's
he's still holding the sword. So knows where he is.
It works on his clothes, but not his sword, apparently.
I know, yeah.
But yeah, that doesn't make sense. And then a crown of untold riches that's just a crown, but somehow represents a kingdom. The other parts of that I don't like. If this had just been the Fountain of Youth, I think I would have had a higher enjoyment of the film. I think his character would have made a lot more sense. And then Sinbad, he's the eternal adventurer, so he wants the Fountain of Youth, in my hypothetical version, to continue this free life that he's going for. Kind of like how the film ends with him saying something along the lines, a king is never free. Yeah. Freedom is what I value. That core could have carried over with him wanting to have the Fountain of Youth so he could continue this lifestyle forever. So yeah, if they'd taken away all the glam of the other two sections of the necklace and just focused on the Fountain of Youth aspect, I think that tightens up the story a lot just from that little change.
I can understand that. And but real quick question: what year did Tom Baker start doing Doctor Who?
That would have been about 73, 74.
So the same year. Same year. So this
because
was,
John Pertwee started in 1970 and was it for 3 seasons, but I think that ended up being about 4 years. So yeah, about
okay. So when the year this released is the year he got Doctor Who,
roughly,
and then became a legend. So Tom Baker is probably the best thing in this movie outside of Ray Harryhausen's work because he just hams it up and he gives a cheeky, cheesy villain performance. But this is the 70s. This is what you got in the 70s. Cheeky, cheesy, a little over the top. So basically the whole, you should already lean into it. The whole gist of the movie is this: Sinbad arrives on this island, and he basically gets caught up in a power struggle between the heir, this vizier who's the heir to the Sultanate, and Tom Baker's villain who wants to take it over and rule it with evil intentions. And they're trying to find this fountain of riches, which has, like you said, they learn 3 medallions. Each one gives a specific type of treasure when you toss it into the water. And then it's basically a race across the seas to find it.
That takes 2 days, maybe.
It feels like it's like 3 or 4 days, even though there's there's a couple of wonky lines. At one point, Sinbad says they makes it clear I'm sailing into uncharted waters. But then at one point, when the enemy ship is chasing him, they say, "Oh, I've sailed these waters once." I don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of inconsistency like that with when he sees the prophecy written on the wall, which I think prophecy and fate and stuff like that is really hard to introduce into a narrative satisfactorily. This movie doesn't do it at all. It's just an excuse for everything. Doesn't explain anything. Like we'll get to the Centaur versus Griffin fight. It's cool fight. Yeah. No idea why or what's happening besides, like the prophecy said, good versus evil and an eternal struggle. It's like, what the hell? But on the wall of prophecy that he sees with the vizier, he mentions, I see a ship on a great long voyage, but then it's like a 2-day voyage. And I know they're kidding with the merchant son saying, oh, it could take 2 to 3 years, but the implication is still that it's going to take a while.
No, I think that what he meant was when he goes to sea, he's going to take him with him for 2 or 3 years. Not that the Avengers.
Oh, just in general.
The father wanted him to get out there and be a man. And man up. And
that storyline I think is actually one of the tightest in the film. I mean, it's in a couple scenes, and that character's my favorent character. He's fucking useless.
I think I know why. He's the only character that has a character development.
He does.
Listen, I'm going to be completely honest. While I love this movie, there's 0 character development for anybody. I mean, Sinbad is Sinbad. He doesn't need to change. He's the hero. He does cool-ass heroic things, and he kicks a lot of ass. But there's no actual story of Sinbad here. The vizier, he's along for the ride because he needs to be crowned king or sultan.
Sure. And the crown somehow fixes his face and disintegrates the helmet.
It's magic. It's magic. It's okay. That's complete.
If it healed his face, sure, but the mask just disappearing, that's intelligent magic.
It's total magic right there. I'm okay with that. Sinbad's crew, they're just loyal. They're just loyal dudes. They have no story to tell. Caroline Munro, she's just there for cheesecake, and I'm fine with it.
She exists.
That's a beautiful woman, and she was like she was like the beauty standard of the time. She was like she was a model at the time, I believe. Big deal on that side, but she can't act, but she's beautiful, and that's all that mattered. And because her character is like, I'm a slave no more. Okay, I'm still gonna serve you even though I'm not a slave. I had the centaur living god tattoo on my hand, put on a child,
no reason,
and that's why she needs to go with him so she can save them at that point and push back the green cannibals, because those are cannibals. No, don't tell me those weren't cannibals. They were 100%. They were gonna eat them. So the adventure moves along.
But just real quick with that son of the merchant, he absolutely had the only character arc, and he of course he was meant to be comic relief, but it was effectively so. Like one of my favorite lines in the entire film were, my heart is full of courage. It's my legs that are cowards. that is just a great line, which was a nice break from, I think about half the lines in the film were, if a man blank, he's this, or such a man does blank.
High up your camel.
It's just stuff like that. Like the man who walks on fire burns his feet. Like they're all lines like that where you're like,
Allah be praised.
Okay.
Allah be merciful.
It's like,
am I gonna get in trouble for that? Is somebody gonna come after me now?
YouTube's not gonna get you in trouble. They actually like that.
Well, I am Jewish, so they hate me anyway. All right. So the adventure is essentially a race to the fountain of power, and getting what turns out to be 3 medallion pieces. They have the 2, and it's essentially now you got Tom Baker chasing them using various demon summoning. And like you said, I knew you would appreciate the rules of his demonic magic. I knew you would appreciate that they set a ground rule. Every time he uses it, it takes a part of his life force, and he'll grow older and older and older to the point where his loyal manservant is like, Master, you cannot do this anymore. It will take the life from you. Don't you understand, Habib? I don't know if his name's Habib or not. You understand, I must keep doing this because the power is there and I'm so close. That's basically it.
See, that could have worked so well. There's so many unfulfilled potential with this. There's so much unfulfilled potential in this film, especially with like the Fountain of Youth angle. And I thought when they were talking about Shield from Darkness, the whole movie, I thought it was going to tie into his lines that he keeps saying, I call upon the forces of darkness. I keep calling it the forces of darkness. So I thought it was going to be an unintentional side effect where he could no longer call upon magic anymore because he's shielded from the dark forces.
Yeah, you were really overthinking it.
Like that would have been well written. That would have been a good setup and payoff, and would have been interesting. Instead, it's like, I'm invisible now. Partially.
Here's what I think this is part of this. The Voyages of Sinbad is, to my knowledge, while there are probably, I think, a few set adventures, there's no set mythology about this. It's not like where another Ray Harryhausen movie, Jason and the Argonauts, where you're dealing with specific mythology, or Clash of the Titans, where you're dealing with specific mythology and you're adapting around it and you're still following on the story. This feels like it was just kind of written and let's go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so there's no guiding light to this movie. While I enjoy it, it meanders on because the first act is nice and solid. It's the setup, get everybody together. The second act, where they're doing the travel and they fight, and where the masthead comes to life and they fight her, and she falls in the water and takes the map with her, and getting to the island and first arriving on the island until they get to the Oracle, where I think is the end of the second act. It meanders. They're just kind of moving along.
I have to disagree. The first act was my least favorite act of the film because, things just happen for happen's sake, and they use prophecy to excuse it. Like it's coincidence, things appearing where they're needed, people appearing where they're needed, and it didn't do a good job with making me want to side with Sinbad over Tom Baker's character because for the first little bit, all we knew is, hey, they shot down a messenger bird, is what they thought it was, at least at the time, stole it, and then the rightful owner's like, hey, you stole that from me, I'd like it back. To be honest, at first I'm like, you know what, that's a pretty reasonable thing to do. Shouldn't go for your sword, Sinbad. It's kind of a reasonable ask.
If I kill a tiny little demon creature holding something, I'm going to think, you know what, if somebody summoned a demon creature, they're probably
they don't know it's a demon creature. They didn't see the body. And they were even talking about, that looks like an albatross.
Oh, you're right.
It's a jackdaw.
You're right. It gets away. You're right. I'm thinking of later when they kill
if they had seen it land or seen its body, I'd be 100% with you. Like, there's something weird going on here. This is demonic. But it's just like, that's a funky looking bird. Maybe it's an albatross, a jackdaw. They steal what it's carrying. And then a guy's like, hey, that necklace belongs to me. Can I have it back, please? And he goes for his sword. It's like, I'm going to be honest. I sided with Tom Baker for the first little bit until they're like, oh yeah, he's a prophesied villain. He's the evil prince who worships demons, and he's coming to take the vizier's kingdom. It's like, okay, he's obviously the villain, but It was a reasonable thing he did at the beginning.
The Doctor would never do that.
The Doctor. Yeah, maybe that's what it was, just bias for Tom Baker. But yeah, there was a lot of inconsistency, I think, tonally, character-wise. That's why I believe this film actually belongs to you. You might hate me for this. The chat might hate me for this. I think it falls into the same category of film as Avatar, as in the James Cameron Avatar film.
Ooh.
Not overrated to the extent that one is. That's mainly why I hate that movie. But it exists to be more a tech demo than a story. And that's how I feel about this film. Is the script is tertiary. It's secondary to, hey, let's have big, crazy, over-the-top fight scene with these animated monsters, which is cool, but they didn't go to the work to justify any of these tech demo moments.
I can agree with that, because let's be honest, outside of Tom Baker, these are not stellar performances by anybody.
No.
It's very mid to average acting. No complete terrible. I mean, again, Karen Monroe, she's there for tits and ass, pure and simple. And she shows it off in varying degrees of scantily clad, belly dancer outfit. So it's not a powerful performance by any means. And the story, as I said, once they get to the Oracle, it's meandering. After the Oracle, where it picks up, then you get to the stuff, because now it kind of picks up very quickly just to get to the end. And at this point now, let's talk about the real star of this movie, the Ray Harryhausen special effects. Because guys, I'm sorry, there's not really much to talk about in this movie. There really isn't. It's go on adventure. Sinbad will now agree to save the kingdom, get the medallion, get the girl, fight the evil dude, go through
things happen.
Things happen. Fight monsters.
The monsters were great, and that's what we're going to get into in a moment. But yeah, this film is enjoyable. I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying it's a bad movie or anything, or that I didn't like it because it was the tech demo. I think the tech demo aspects of it were phenomenal. It's just, I understand why it was a hit. I absolutely understand why it was
the era. It's a movie of its era. Completely.
I just, as a watcher, I value the quality of story, the quality of script, and the quality of acting above a lot of other things. And this film is sorely lacking in those areas. There are other areas that it excels in, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it hurts my enjoyment a lot if I can't get invested in any of the characters.
Yeah, I understand that. I completely understand. That's why I'm saying, if this had followed, like, I think, an actual mythological adventure set down and retold over again, it would probably be a lot of a stronger story. But in a sense, it's just a race to something, and things happen. You're right. And also, if it had, because once again, I'm going to compare it to Clash of the Titans. You have a movie where you've got Sir Laurence Olivier, Maggie Smith, Burgess Meredith. You've got fantastic people acting in a movie, and everybody giving dynamite performance, and also Ray Harryhausen at his peak. Even though he's an old man at that point, at his peak, he used every bit of his mastery in that movie to make it look beautiful. Because there are a couple of moments, as much as we love it, let's go over them now. There's like one moment where it does break your suspension of disbelief, and I think you might know when I get to it, when I'm mentioning. So the first fight we will go over is the masthead. When their masthead comes to life, they fight it. It's so. Here's the thing about this time and back then. For the era and technology, it's so seamless most of the time.
Oh yeah, that's the brilliance of it. It's compositing. I know we're going to talk about the animation, but compositing isn't something that's easy, especially with film versus digital material. They had to do that by hand, I'm guessing.
Yes, it's a movement, click, movement, click, movement, click.
Well, not just the movement, but compositing it into the other footage. Making it, the single shots for both. You see the moving figurehead at the same time you see Sinbad. Like that compositing to put them on the same film reel is incredible. It's virtually seamless. There's only a few points where I noticed it.
There's one scene when it's Uncanny Valley's too big, and it's like, yeah. But they use beautiful camera work where they switch to like the point of view of the creature, and the weapons are going, and you're looking right at Sinbad or whoever who's fighting something, and that's a great way to keep you in it without breaking the stream of the fight. And that's a unique thing. You don't get that anywhere. You're not put in the perspective of a creature, but they had to do that in order to make it magical on the screen.
Yeah.
They had
No.
to do that.
And it was a brilliant choice. I think in some ways these fights are done better than a lot of modern fights are, because yeah, the CGI is better, whatnot. That's not what I'm talking about. But at least from a cinematography standpoint, a lot of fight scenes these days are so they use so many close-ups and shaky cam to cover up the lack of skill in the choreography or whatnot. This film doesn't try to do that. Obviously, it wasn't a style at the time, but I see greater craftsmanship, better mastery of just filmmaking in general in this film than a modern day fight scene. Because yeah, you can see what's happening. You see it from the creature's perspective, like you're saying, getting scale, getting perspective, and getting into the action. The action's absolutely the best part of this movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we'll talk about now what is the best set piece of the movie: the fight with Kali. That's what made this movie famous. The fight with Kali, where first Tom Baker summoning her to life, and she does the dance. That's just freaking cool. That's just
I was laughing, just the head movement. Like it was done very well, but I was just like, what is happening?
It's very cool. It sets the mood. And then at that moment, and here's where the movie tricks you. If you don't know if you're not watching it, you could see the elapsed time and know that there's still 30 minutes after that fight scene. You'd think, oh man, this is it. They've cornered him. They're going to have to fight. And then he goes, oh no. And he throws the sword to Kali, and then
I knew that was gonna happen.
She can magically, and it's magic, so I'm fine with it. I don't need explanation. It's magic. Creates a sword in each hand, and then the music kicks in. This is the only point for me in the movie where the music reaches a great crescendo moment that I really love it, where you get the fight. And what I love is that Sinbad just jumps right forward. Ha! I'm gonna fight this
no
six-armed
hesitation.
demon. No hesitation, because he has seen some shit in his travels. So he's like, yeah, I'm going to take this. But what I love is that he's not super powered over this. Kali is a tough fight, and he struggles. At one point, he has to rely on the good old dual wield, which I loved. Oh, he's dual wielding. He's dual wielding. It's great.
I thought you might like that.
But the choreography of them blending it back in around with Kali and all the dudes fighting and his loyal crew fighting there, that scene, even though we talk about how the whole entire movie doesn't really have a lot of character depth of development, in that moment, the fight with Kali it's an encapsulation of what it means to be Sinbad and a part of his group. He jumps in, and without hesitation, his crewmates jump in. His men jump in to fight with him, to protect him, even though one of them gets ganked right away. Just takes that slash right away. And it's just a beautiful dance around and you mentioned it because you said the choreography. They had to choreograph this model to fight these dudes in real time. That's just great work. Great work.
Yeah, you're doing the choreography and then you have to recreate it perfectly in animation. I don't know which one they did first, the animated part, the actor part. I don't know which one they did first, but yeah, you had to replicate it perfectly, make it seamless, and yeah, so many different versions of it for different angles. It's all beautifully done, and yeah, you can see that the floor in front of Callie is a different color than the rest of the floor. That's so minor though. Like I'm saying, that's how far I have to reach to see any flaw in this illusion that they've created. And like you were saying, the character work exists purely in the action sequences, because yeah, choreography can tell character nearly as well as dialogue in a lot of instances, and it's a great way to do show don't tell in storytelling. So yeah, when it comes to the fight scene, Sinbad's character work is very well done. The way that he instinctually goes to protect his men but still leaps into the fray, and yeah, it's masterful, even by today's standards. Like, obviously, it looks dated, but I can recognize that, oh my god, this was probably insane in the era.
They took weeks probably to make that work. Weeks.
Oh, at least, yeah.
Yeah. And to your point about character growth, Sinbad at the last end, he's being overwhelmed by Kali because he's the last one standing. But then here comes comic relief, who has learned enough in this short time to work with the crew, and he comes around and he does the bum rush and knocks Kali over the edge to save Sinbad. So that's good. Our hero gets help from the weakest link, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It works.
It's in a way that works well because that kid, I love that he's an unconventional thinker. That's why he's one of my favorite characters too. Besides, he's not just comic relief. He, after seeing all of Sinbad's men go up and fight in Kali, having no success whatsoever, swords aren't doing anything. He tries bludgeon damage, fire damage, and blind spot damage all in one move. Obviously, it's ineffective, but he's trying something different. And then, doing the bun rush, trying to use gravity to their advantage. Like He's intelligent. Yeah, he's a drunk. He's a spoiled kid, a womanizer. But I see a lot of complexity when it comes to his character. That it makes him the most fascinating character besides the potential that Tom Baker's character could have offered.
And that's why this is a magical. It's magical. What Ray Harryhausen did is magical, and at the time, it's magical. Before we get to the next one, Jay Frazier for 10 pounds. Hail, Adam and Jed. Fun fact, after being impressed with Tom Baker's performance in this film, Barry Letts, then producer for Doctor Who, cast him as the fourth Doctor in 1974. Do Doctor Who Nerdgasm when Adam. First, I'm not surprised. Yeah. And I was wondering if that was any connection to this. So that's awesome. So
makes a lot of sense.
So that shows you that this movie at the time was a big deal. That it was on display and people enjoyed it and people were impressed. As we said, Tom Baker was the best thing. And look what it did. It turned Tom Baker into a science fiction legend for the next literally 50 years. So there you go. As for the Doctor Who Nerdgasm, I have had this thought, and I've already discussed it with Dermy. Jed doesn't know this yet. We're going to do it after season 2 of Shooty so that we can cleanse our palate. And Jeremy agreed. That's a good idea. We'll cleanse our palate when we're done with Shooty and talk about the real thing. So you'll get it likely, probably, I would then say probably in May when Shooty's done completely, since we do have our premiere date for Doctor Who Shooty Season 2. So thank you, Jay Fraser, for the 10 pounds. And thank you for that fact. I'm glad to know what I believed was likely true, but I'm glad to know that. Anyway, there will be another nerdgasm in between all that, but I have to figure out what now because I've pushed off the Doctor Who to an appropriate. Jed, I think it's an appropriate thing. We're gonna want to.
Yeah, I definitely will need some cleansing of the palate after watching Shooty's final season, hopefully. So it'll be great to go back and talk about Doctor.
We are going to talk about that a little bit more because there is a story about. There is a little bit of Doctor Who story. Did you see the production special effects thing got shut down?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, well, we'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll talk about it tomorrow as we speculate on things. Anyway, so that is the crown jewel moment of this movie, I think, the fight against Kali, because it's everything you want to see in a Ray Harryhausen movie. But we still have a little bit more because after they escape, they go from one action set piece to another one because Carolyn Monroe, the green people, throw her in a pit. And everybody goes down after her. And that's where we get the Cyclops Centaur, which is now the Kali it wasn't the norm. Usually with Ray Harryhausen, it's a monster, not a model type statue type thing. So now next part of this with the Cyclops, Centaur, and the Griffin, here you have traditional classic Ray Harryhausen monster modeling, which is still beautiful to look at to this day. It's unique. It's instantly recognizable as Ray Harryhausen work because remember, not only does he do the special effects, but he designs it. That's his specific look. Look at every single Ray Harryhausen movie. They all have that unique look to them, and you can tell right away that it's his artwork, his masterpiece. So we have essentially now they try to rescue. I'll just keep calling her Carolyn Monroe. I forget her character's name. I never remember it. It begins with an M, Maria Haya, whatever. And then you got the Griffin versus the Cyclops, which my problem with this, and I'm going to say it's a partial limited because of the technology. First of all, where the Griffin comes from, I have no idea.
Yeah, the Griffin comes from nowhere. It's not justified. That line about good versus evil is nothing. Yeah. And why would Tom Baker get involved in the fight? He has no reason to assume, hey, the Cyclops will fight with me or be on my side. There's no justification like that. It's not like he's hurting the more dangerous foe, so the weaker one will win, so he has an easier time beating the weaker one. It's not like there's no strategy to it. It doesn't make sense for him to do. Just wait for it to play out and then deal with the situation then. And
But-
yeah, the deeds of weak men could shift the balance in the battle versus good and evil. Just feels.
But here's the problem. Yeah,
weird.
that whole fight doesn't really play out to anything.
Yeah, it
That's the
accomplishes
problem.
nothing.
It's just let's see tiny kaiju fight, which is all it is. And then, listen, I'm okay with it. I'm always good for a kaiju fight. Problem is though, and I'm going to attribute this to the limitations, even with Ray Harryhausen. Why is a griffin fighting on the ground? Why isn't it using some limited? There's enough room in that cavern for it to get some air and fight and get.
No,
its
he
advantage.
can't. He has shown that you can interact with flying characters with the little demon
Yeah.
things. So I think the technology was there, but it seems like more a choice. I don't know for sure, but
Maybe
a
something
lot of that
model that
sequence doesn't
size.
make sense. Like,
Yeah.
I was under the impression that when at the beginning of the film, when Sinbad put the two pieces together, they got part of a seed chart, which makes sense because there was that whole piece missing, and then they'd go get the other piece, but the other piece
Is
was
there already.
Is there
Probably,
already, and like 100 yards from the fountain, and there's underground caves that just happen to go there that the characters don't know. When they go down in the tunnels, they don't know that they're going to be able to go where.
Sinbad's just being a man to save the girl. That's all he's doing.
Yeah, and then he just happens to end up in the same place that Tom Baker is to fight him. It's luck and contrived.
This is the one scene where there is a problem with Uncanny Valley. At one point, when they're taking out the Cyclops Centaur, Sinbad jumps on its back to stab it with a knife, and then you get model Sinbad on the back of the Centaur, and there it's so obvious that that's a fake human model on the back of the model thing. That's like the one slip up that I can't unsee. It's like, ooh, I appreciate that they're having Sinbad interact with it, but to do full fake Sinbad on its back, I don't think that was a smart choice by Ray in retrospect, because it breaks the immersion of the fight for me. Where in the previous fights up to this point, the immersion was never broken, but right there, that breaks my immersion for it. So that's like the one criticism I have of the entire special effects of it with Ray Harryhausen magic. And then after that, like you said, they chase down Tom Baker to the cave where the fountain is, and Tom Baker barely gets it in there because he's dying as he throws it in. And then you get a little more Ray Harryhausen special effects where they make him invisible and stuff like that. And then Sinbad wins a fight, and then you get the classic thing. Sinbad doesn't want fortune and glory; he just wants freedom. He doesn't want to rule because the water shows him wearing the crown of untold riches. But he's like, no, I'm going to give it to the real ruler here. I don't want to be a ruler. I want to be free. And then I'm going to get the girl. And then we're all going to make the joke about, but tie up your camel. Trust in Allah, but tie up your camel. So, I mean, there it is. There it is. I don't have much else to say because, as I've said from the beginning of this is my favorite Sinbad movie. I enjoy it every time I watch it. But it's not a deep movie. There's nothing really to talk about it story or character wise. It follows the standard pattern of a heroic tale. You know, there's no breakout. No, the Sinbad doesn't have a moment of crisis at all.
No,
he doesn't question himself.
It's definitely not a hero's journey, though.
No, it's not. No, it's I'm the hero. I'm gonna be badass, and I'm fine with that. And that's why it's a fun, enjoyable movie. But that's just all it is. It's a fun, enjoyable movie to be shared with friends, but not really to be dissected in any way, except for, as you said, the brilliance of Ray Harryhausen. So,
yeah, that's the main thing that comes to it. The technical side is great. The spectacle side of this film is great. I really love the music. I thought the music was fantastic in a lot of the sequence. Yeah, it's very fitting, very of the era. There are plenty of the era things that I'm not a fan of, but I can't criticize the film for it. Like one thing that I like that modern films have gotten away from is the 5 minutes of opening credits on a flat background. Integrating it into a scene is a good choice. But obviously I can't criticize the movie for that. That's just of the era. But yeah, no, the visual effects, the special effects were just absolutely incredible. I enjoy watching this film, if not, you know, dissecting it, or like it's a casual watch. It's not something I'd go out of my way looking for writing edification or anything
watch
like
it
that.
once a year.
Yeah.
I watch it once a year, basically. This is my one time a year to watch it. It's like, oh, I need something on that I enjoy, that is comforting and normal, that I can have on, but don't have to pay super close attention to. I'll put this on, and I'll admit it. I was grinding a video game while playing it. It's because that's what it's one of those things. I don't have to watch it. I can hear it. I know what's going on. So it's a nice time. It's always a good time. And it is, as we kept saying, it is an example of the genius of Ray Harryhausen. And if we hadn't already done Clash of the Titans, actually, we might have to redo it because that was the previous version of the show.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, I'd be down to do Jason and the Argonauts.
Oh, it's been a long time since I saw that one. Wow, it's been a long time.
That would be the next one I'd want to see because I've heard great things about that one.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that always gets put on as display of that because that the skeleton fight in that one is one of like the classic ones that everybody will go to for his ability in that. So we might at some point have to redo Clash of the Titans because it's it's not up anymore. So we might have to redo that one. And oh no, we do it. And this time you would be going into it knowing how awesome it is. It's not the surprise, and so you'll get that second viewing where now you're going to really appreciate its awesomeness. All right, so I think we're done. Are we done? I think we're done.
Yeah. There a lot of the rest of the stuff would just be repeating the same ground, doing different examples of the problems we've seen or the things that we loved.
Yeah. So I've already explained it. I give this a solid 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. It never disappoints me. And it is a technical marvel for the time. So, Jed, go ahead.
All right, this is going to disappoint some people in the chat. I'm fully aware of that, but as I always have to say, a disclaimer: I try to value objectivity over subjectivity. I enjoyed this film, so my enjoyment is different than what I see as the actual review for and its overall quality. The fact that it doesn't have a real story, doesn't have a real script, and it doesn't have real actors doing anything hurts the movie a lot.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, the technical stuff is near perfect. So I can't, just review this at, hypothetically, a 2 out of 10 just because the story wasn't there. I can't do that. The technical side is marvelous, and it works very well as a tech demo and as a casual movie you watch with your friends. And you're just like, yeah, that was cool. Spectacle over substance. This film is very good at that distinction. Definitely is in that vein of things. So I'm going to have to give this movie a 5.5 out of 10.
I'm not going to be angry.
Okay.
I'm not going to be. No, I accept that. I accept it. Because as usual, I love it despite its error flaws. I love it anyway. All right, there we go. That's it. Now, we are going to sort of take next week off because next Saturday, I'm doing a 12-hour stream. Which I'll talk about more on Roundtable tomorrow, give real specifics. So we're gonna miss a week, but Jed, it will be your choice next time around. So what do you got on the docket? Have you chosen? It's your choice next.
Are you sure? I
chose Winter Soldier.
Oh, that's right. You did choose Winter Soldier. I don't have a choice currently, but I'll have one by tomorrow.
Okay, great. So we'll announce it tomorrow. It'll be on, I guess, April. Oh, that's not the calendar, Adam. That's the weather app. It'll be on April. No, not April. We're in March. Stupid. Don't scroll down. April 5th. We won't be doing shit either. On March 8th. No, I'm sorry. March 15th. March 15th. Yeah, March 15th will be the next one. And then just to give you guys a reminder, we'll be good. We'll be good on March 22nd. But then on March 29th and April 5th, we will not have a show because Jed and I won't be here. So it's very simple about that. And then we probably won't have one on the 12th either. So we're probably going to have a send break due to life and other things. So I will fill the void, ladies. Don't worry.
Whoa.
I will fill the void at least on April 12th. We'll have something else in its place. Don't worry. Maybe I'll convince Dermy to not do drama too early on Saturday, and we'll start gaming early on Saturday or something like that. Or we'll start something else. Either way. So that's the schedule. But after, by mid-April, we'll be back to normal, along with a lot of other streams, which we will talk about tomorrow on Roundtable. We give you guys the block for the spring scheduling and how we're doing stuff. Anyway, so thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We hope you had a good time. You can show your appreciation with likes and comments and subscriptions. It's the best way to do it. Let the algorithm know you love us. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time. Until then, take it easy. Everybody have a good night wherever you may be.